What happens when a carefully orchestrated television appearance goes completely off the rails in front of millions of viewers? What happens when years of simmering tension finally explode during what was meant to be a friendly chat show interview? Today, we're diving into one of the most shocking moments in recent television history, when a routine guest appearance unraveled into a full-blown disaster that left everyone stunned. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments about celebrity confrontations on live television. The morning of the interview began like any other. At the Live with Kelly and Mark studio, producers were thrilled to have secured such a high-profile guest. According to the prep notes, this would be a lighthearted conversation focused on recent projects and family life. Kelly Ripa sat at her desk, flipping through her notes one last time, while Mark Consuelos adjusted his tie and checked the teleprompter. The audience buzzed with excitement. Phones already out, and recording as they always were when major celebrities appeared. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our very special guest, Kelly announced with her trademark bright smile. Joining us this morning to talk about her latest endeavors, please give a warm welcome to Meghan Markle. The applause was polite but enthusiastic as Meghan walked onto the set, wearing an elegant cream-colored blazer and a confident smile. She waved to the audience before taking her seat across from the hosts, crossing her legs and settling in with apparent ease. Meghan, thank you so much for being here today, Mark said warmly, leaning forward slightly. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for having me, Meghan replied, her voice smooth and practiced. I'm excited to be here and talk about some really important projects I've been working on. Kelly jumped right in, briefly consulting her notes. So, let's start with your recent documentary work. You've been focusing a lot on social justice issues, which clearly mean a lot to you. Can you tell us about your latest project? Meghan's eyes lit up as she launched into her prepared remarks. Absolutely, Kelly. This documentary is really close to my heart. It addresses systemic inequality and amplifies voices that are often unheard in our society. I think it's crucial that we use whatever platform we have to shine a light on these issues. That's wonderful, Kelly nodded, though there was a subtle shift in her tone that hinted at a deeper direction. And speaking of platforms and voices, you've certainly had some interesting things to say about the media lately, particularly regarding how certain stories are covered. The question hung in the air just a moment too long. Observant viewers noticed Meghan's smile falter barely, but noticeably. Well, I think it's important to call out unfair coverage when we see it. Don't you? She said. Mark leaned back, exchanging a quick glance with Kelly that didn't go unnoticed by the cameras. Absolutely. Accountability matters. But sometimes I wonder where's the line between calling out unfair coverage and trying to control the narrative altogether. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Meghan's posture stiffened slightly, though she remained composed. I'm not sure I understand what you're implying, Mark. Oh, I'm not implying anything, he said with a casual shrug, somehow both dismissive and pointed. I'm just saying some people seem to want all the perks of being in the public eye without any of the scrutiny. Kelly picked it up smoothly, her tone still that of a polished host, even as her words sharpened. It's interesting, isn't it, how some people can live in multi-million-dollar mansions and talk about being victims, while demanding everyone else follow their rules about what can and can't be discussed. The audience began to sense something was off script. A few shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others leaned forward, anticipating drama. Meghan's media training was clearly kicking in. She worked to maintain composure, though a flash of something fiercer flickered in her eyes. I think there's a big difference between asking for basic human decency and trying to control a narrative, she said, her voice combat-edged. And I find it interesting that standing up for oneself is being framed as a problem. Standing up for oneself, Kelly repeated, slowly, as if tasting the words. Is that what we're calling it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks more like a pattern of burning bridges than complaining about the smoke. The gloves were off now, yet both sides still clung to the appearance of civility. Mark jumped back in, his tone conversational. You know what fascinates me, Meghan? You came on our show today to talk about giving voice to the voiceless. But you seem to have a real issue when other people use their voices to express opinions you don't like. That's not what this is about at all, Meghan replied, her voice now tinged with genuine irritation. This is about accuracy, about fairness of how not perpetuating harmful narratives that affect real people's lives. Harmful narratives, Kelly repeated, tapping her pen lightly against her notes. Like the narrative that actions have consequences, or the idea that you can't have your cake and eat it too, because those sound pretty accurate to me. The studio was silent now. The audience sensed they were witnessing something extraordinary. Even the camera operators seemed to be holding their breath as the polite, yet pointed, exchange escalated. Meghan took a deep breath, clearly trying to regain control. I think we're getting off track here. I came on your show to discuss meaningful work, not to be subjected to personal attacks disguised as interview questions. Mark gave a short laugh, void of any humor. Personal attacks. Meghan, these are direct questions about your very public statements and actions. If that feels like a personal attack, maybe the issue isn't with the questions. You know what, Mark? Meghan's voice sharpened. Her media training was beginning to crack under pressure. I've sat through enough interviews where people think they can say whatever they want under the guise of journalism. I'm not going to sit here and be lectured by people who've never faced a fraction of the scrutiny I've endured. Kelly set her pen down and looked at Meghan directly, her expression a mix of disbelief and amusement. Are you seriously suggesting Mark and I don't understand media scrutiny? We've been in this industry for decades. Meghan, we've dealt with tabloids, gossip, criticism, everything that comes with being public figures. The difference is, we don't expect the world to stop spinning because someone wrote something we didn't like. That's completely different, and you know it. Meghan snapped, her composure slipping. You've never faced a coordinated campaign of harassment and misinformation. You've never had your family torn apart by lies in the press. Mark leaned forward, his expression serious but his tone still composed. Meghan, with all due respect, every public figure deals with negative press. Every single one. The question is how you respond. Do you rise above it and prove your critics wrong through action, or do you spend years complaining about it while courting the same media attention you say you despise? The audience was completely transfixed. This had gone far beyond the bounds of a standard celebrity interview. It was something raw, unfiltered, and deeply personal. Meghan's hands were trembling slightly as she gripped the arms of her chair. You think I court media attention? Her voice rose, the practiced modulation gone. You think I enjoy having every single thing I do picked apart and twisted into something ugly? You think I like photographers following my children? I think, Kelly said slowly and deliberately, that someone who truly wanted privacy wouldn't do tell-all interviews, wouldn't write memoirs, wouldn't sign multi-million-dollar deals with streaming platforms to discuss their private family life. She paused, her tone cutting. I think someone who genuinely wanted to be left alone would actually try being left alone. The words landed like a punch. Meghan's face flushed red, and for a moment, it looked like she might stand and leave the set. Instead, she took a shaky breath and responded, How dare you question my motives when you know nothing about what I've been through? You sit here in your comfortable little television bubble cracking jokes and selling products, and think that gives you the right to judge how I've handled an impossible situation. Mark's eyebrows shot up. Comfortable little television bubble. Meghan, you do realize you're sitting in that very bubble right now, using our platform to promote your projects. You can't simultaneously benefit from the media while condemning everyone in it. I'm trying to use whatever platform I have to make a positive difference in the world, Meghan said, her voice openly angry now. Unlike some people who seem content to collect paychecks and avoid any real substance, the insult hung in the air like smoke. Kelly's smile turned razor sharp, her voice dropping to a dangerously quiet tone. Real substance. That's rich coming from someone whose idea of making a positive difference involves airing family grievances on international television, then acting surprised when people have opinions. Those weren't grievances. They were truths that needed to be told, Meghan snapped. Sometimes you have to speak out against injustice, even when it makes others uncomfortable. Injustice, Mark repeated, slowly shaking his head. Meghan, you married into one of the most privileged families on earth. You lived in palaces, had access to resources most people only dream of. And your response to not getting everything exactly the way you wanted was to burn it all down then. Spend years telling the world how badly you were treated. Do you understand how that looks to people facing actual injustice? The question hit hard. Meghan's jaw clenched, her eyes flashing with anger. You have no idea what it was like. None. You don't know what it's like to be completely isolated, to have no support system, to struggle with mental health while the entire world watches and judges. You're right, Kelly said, her voice softer but no less pointed. We don't know what that exact experience was like, but we do know what it's like to be criticized, to have our bad days splashed across the press, to have our personal lives scrutinized, and most people in that situation don't have the luxury of a multi-million-dollar exit strategy. So, because I found a way to support my family after leaving, that invalidates everything I went through. Meghan's voice was rising now, her composure gone. Because I didn't disappear quietly, I must be lying about my experience. Mark raised his hands in a gesture meant to combat. It came off as condescending. Nobody's saying you're lying, Meghan. We're just saying that maybe, just maybe, your perspective is skewed by your own role in creating some of the drama you're now complaining about. That was the final straw. Meghan stood abruptly, her chair rolling backward, as she faced the hosts with undisguised fury. My role in creating drama? Are you kidding me right now? I was 19 years old when I started getting death threats from people who hated me before they even knew my name. I was pregnant and suicidal, and you're sitting here suggesting I brought that on myself. The studio fell into complete silence. Even the camera operators seemed frozen, watching this moment unfold in real time. Kelly and Mark exchanged a quick glance. Neither had expected it to go this far, but neither looked ready to back down. Meghan, Kelly said carefully, nobody is minimizing your mental health struggles. No one's saying death threats are ever acceptable, but you can't use those awful experiences as a shield from any and all criticism of your choices. I'm not using anything as a shield, Meghan snapped, her voice now openly hostile. I'm trying to explain why your smug commentary about my life is completely out of line. You sit here pretending to be relationship experts and media analysts when you've never faced anything remotely close to what I've endured. Mark's patience finally cracked. Welcome to being a public figure, Mark said flatly. The difference between you and nearly every other celebrity is that most of them don't spend years making their struggles everyone else's problem. Meghan's voice now boomed, loud enough for the people in the back rows to hear every word. I shared my story because I thought it might help others who were struggling. I thought it might inspire real change. But apparently, according to YouTube experts, that just makes me selfish and attention-seeking. Kelly leaned back in her chair, her expression openly incredulous. Meghan, you can't be serious. You signed deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars to tell your story. You didn't do it out of charity. You monetized it. There's a difference between advocacy and business, and you're pretending there isn't. The accusation hit its mark. Meghan's face darkened from red to nearly purple. When she spoke again, her voice trembled with rage. How dare you question my motives? How dare you reduce everything I've gone through to a cash grab? You don't know anything about my life, my struggles, or my intentions. We know what you've chosen to make public, Mark replied firmly, and what you've shown is a pattern burning bridges, blaming others for the fallout, and then profiting off the chaos. If you don't like how that looks, maybe the problem isn't the people pointing it out. Meghan looked like she was on the verge of completely losing it. She began pacing behind her chair, her gestures wide and erratic. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is why I had to speak out. You invite me on your show under false pretenses, then ambush me with a hostile intent. Act like I'm the problem for defending myself. False pretenses. Kelly's voice rose in disbelief. Meghan, we asked you direct questions about your public statements and actions. If you call that an ambush, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews at all. Maybe I shouldn't, Meghan snapped. Maybe I should just retreat to my so-called mansion and let people like you control the narrative. Would that make you happy if I just disappeared and let you say whatever you want with no pushback? Mark shook his head slowly, his expression somewhere between frustration and pity. Meghan, no one wants you to disappear. We just want you to take responsibility for your own choices, especially when things don't go exactly the way you planned. Responsibility. Meghan let out a bitter, angry laugh. I've taken responsibility. I've apologized for things I didn't even do. I've tried to move forward, to focus on meaningful work, but people like you won't let me, because tearing me down gets you better ratings than actually discussing the issues I care about. Kelly stood now too, facing Meghan across the narrow space between them. Ratings, she said, her voice hardening. Meghan, you booked this appearance. You wanted to be here. Until the moment the conversation didn't go your way. You can't have it both ways. I wanted to talk about my documentary work, Meghan shouted. I wanted to focus on real issues that matter. But instead, I got ambushed with this character assassination, disguised as an interview. Character assassination. Mark echoed, disbelief thick in his voice. We asked you about things you've said and done in public. If reviewing your own words and actions feels like an attack to you, maybe that says something about the words and actions themselves. That broke something in Meghan. She grabbed her purse from beside the chair and slung it over her shoulder. Her movements, sharp and deliberate. I'm done, she said coldly. I'm done with people who think they can say whatever they want about me and my family under the excuse of journalism or entertainment or whatever this was supposed to be. So, you're just going to leave? Kelly asked, her tone dripping with condescension, as if Meghan's exit confirmed everything she'd been saying. You're walking off set because you didn't like the questions. Meghan turned one last time, her eyes burning with fury. I'm leaving because this was never meant to be a real interview. It was a setup designed to humiliate me, and I won't be part of it any longer. You two can sit here and congratulate yourselves on your little performance, but everyone watching knows exactly what this was. With that, she turned and strode toward the exit, the sharp click of her heels echoing across the studio floor. The cameras followed her until she disappeared through the door, leaving Kelly and Mark in stunned silence as the audience sat in quiet disbelief. Still processing what they had just witnessed, Mark finally broke the silence, his voice carefully measured. Well, that was certainly unexpected. Kelly nodded slowly and looked directly into the camera. We'll be right back after this break. And just like that, one of the most explosive celebrity interviews in recent memory came to an abrupt and unforgettable end, leaving viewers around the world buzzing with opinions. What did you think of this confrontation? Was it a case of tough but fair questioning, or did the hosts cross a line?